Ambassador Jack Morrison sat in the large circular chamber of the Galactic Council, trying to hide his frustration. The massive room held representatives from over 200 alien species, all seated in rising tiers that faced a central speaking platform. Floating lights gave the chamber a soft blue glow and the air smelled slightly sweet, an attempt to please the many different breathing types present. Jack had been Earth's ambassador for 7 years. 7 long years of asking politely, following rules, and getting nowhere. He watched as the current speaker, a tall green-skinned Axelor with 4 arms, finished addressing the council. And so, the Axelor said, waving its upper limbs, "We must once again deny Earth's request for intervention in the New Eden colony matter. Our non-interference policies are clear." Jack clenched his jaw. The Vraxian horde had attacked New Eden 3 months ago. Over 5,000 humans had died. The colony still burned in some places, and yet the Council did nothing. "The Galactic Council offers its sympathy to the people of Earth," said Chancellor Kozilak, the supreme leader of the Council. The Chancellor belonged to the Thrad species, tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. "This session is now closed." Jack stood up quickly. "Chancellor, if I may speak?" The chamber went quiet. It was unusual to speak after a session was closed. The Chancellor's black eyes narrowed. "The Council has made its decision, Ambassador Morrison. Just as you made your decision when the Pelleran worlds were attacked last year?" Jack asked. "Except then, you sent a peacekeeping fleet within days." Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "That was a different situation," the Chancellor said, "because the Pellerans have been council members for over 300 years while we humans are newcomers," Jack pressed. "Ambassador, this is neither the time nor place." "When is the time, Chancellor? How many human colonies need to burn before the Council sees us as worthy of the same protection you give others?" The Chancellor stood taller. "The Council has existed for 5,000 years, Ambassador. Perhaps in your short time among the stars you failed to understand our ways. Patience is valued here." Jack looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as he could. The people of New Eden had patience. They waited for help as they died. With that, he turned and walked out of the chamber. Back on his ship, Jack sat in his private quarters, watching Earth grow larger through the viewport. The blue and green planet wrapped in white clouds always looked beautiful from space. He wondered what he would tell the president. His communications officer, Beth Winters, knocked on his door. "Come in," Jack called. Beth entered, her red uniform crisp and neat. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Earth. President Gray wants to speak with you before we land." Jack nodded. "Put her through to my private terminal." A few moments later, President Allison Gray's face appeared on the screen. Her dark hair was pulled back and she wore the formal blue suit she saved for important days. "Ambassador," she greeted him, "I've reviewed your report on the Council's decision. I need your honest assessment. Will the Council ever treat Earth as an equal?" Jack took a deep breath. "Madam President, I've spent 7 years learning their ways, following their rules, building relationships, and my honest answer is no. Not for centuries, at least. The elder races, the Thrad, the Axillar, the Juxti, they see us as children. They believe we need to be controlled and guided. They fear what we might become if given access to advanced technologies." The president was quiet for a moment. "I'm calling an emergency meeting when you land. Defense Secretary Porter and Intelligence Director Fleming will be there. I think it's time we consider a different approach." "What kind of approach?" Jack asked. "One that doesn't involve asking for permission," she replied. The meeting room in the White House was silent as Jack finished his presentation. Around the large wooden table sat President Gray, Defense Secretary Henry Porter, Intelligence Director Susan Fleming, and several other top government officials. The screens on the wall showed images of the New Eden attack aftermath: burned buildings, destroyed farms, makeshift hospitals full of injured colonists. "So," President Gray said, "after 20 years of membership in the Galactic Council, Earth has gained minimal technology sharing, restricted trade opportunities, and virtually no security guarantees. That's correct, Madam President, Jack confirmed. The council structure heavily favors the founding species and those who've been members for over 1,000 years. Defense Secretary Porter spoke next. He was a tall man with dark skin and close-cropped gray hair. My teams have analyzed the council's military response patterns. When the Pelleran worlds were attacked, the council responded in 3 days. When the Juxti mining stations were raided, they responded in 5 days. But for human colonies, nothing, not once in 20 years. And it's not just military support, added Intelligence Director Fleming. Her blonde hair was cut in a practical bob, and she rarely smiled. Our scientists have documented 47 instances where the Council has directly blocked human access to technologies freely shared with other species. President Gray stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Washington, D.C. sparkled in the afternoon sun. We joined the Galactic Council believing it would help humanity advance and protect us as we expanded to the stars. We've played by their rules for 2 decades. She turned back to face the room. I think it's time we stopped. The room was silent. Are you suggesting we withdraw from the Council? Jack asked. I'm suggesting we do more than withdraw, the President replied. I'm suggesting we forge our own path in the galaxy. Secretary Porter leaned forward. Madam President, if we leave the Council, we lose what little protection we have. The Vraxians or others might see it as an opportunity to attack more of our colonies. Unless, Director Fleming said, we find new allies. There are dozens of species either rejected by the Council or given the same second-class status as humans. Many have technologies or resources the Council restricts. What if we created our own network? President Gray nodded. Exactly. Not just a withdrawal, but the beginning of something new. Something better than the Council's hierarchy. The discussion continued for hours. Maps of the galaxy appeared on screens, showing potential allies, resources, and strategic locations. By evening, a plan began to take shape. As the meeting ended, President Gray asked Jack to stay behind. Ambassador, she said when they were alone, I need to know if you're with us. This will not be easy. The Council will see this as a challenge to their authority. Jack thought about the burned colony on New Eden, about 7 years of being politely ignored by the Council. What do you need me to do? He asked. Return to Centralis. Close our embassy there. Make it clear this isn't a temper tantrum. It's a fundamental shift in human policy. We're not just leaving the Council, we're creating an alternative. 3 days later, Jack stood in his office at the Earth Embassy on Centralis. The embassy was a beautiful building, designed to showcase human architecture with its blend of glass, steel, and natural materials. Now staff members hurried through the halls packing documents and personal belongings. Jack carefully removed the Earth flag from its stand behind his desk. Through the windows, he could see the massive council spire in the distance, rising above all other buildings in the capital city. His assistant, Olivia Reed, appeared at the door. The last diplomatic pouches are ready, sir, and the ship is prepared for departure. Jack nodded, folding the flag carefully. Make sure everyone is aboard in 2 hours. I want no delays. Yes, sir, Olivia hesitated. Ambassador, what happens now? After we leave? Jack looked out at the alien city one last time. For 2 decades, humans had tried to be good council members. They had followed rules made by species who had been traveling the stars when humans were still figuring out agriculture. Now, he said, turning away from the window, we show them what humans can do when we stop asking for permission. 3 months had passed since Earth closed its embassy on Centralis. The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Chancellor Kezilak of the Thrad Dominion called the emergency session to order, tapping a silver rod against the speaking platform 3 times. Esteemed representatives, the Chancellor began, voice echoing through the vast room. I have called this meeting to address disturbing reports from multiple sectors. The room grew quiet. Over 200 alien diplomats leaned forward in their seats. For the past 2 months, human ships have been spotted at abandoned outposts and derelict stations across the galaxy, Kezilak continued. Even more concerning, humans have been meeting with representatives of non-council species. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing maps of human movements. Small blue dots marked confirmed human activities. An axillary representative stood. Chancellor, why should we worry about what the humans do? They chose to leave our community. Let them play in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. Chancellor Keslak's large black eyes narrowed. Because Representative Vexna, they are not just exploring. They appear to be building something. Most troubling of all, they have made contact with species we have formally declared as hostile to Council interests. New images appeared on the Yar display. Human diplomats meeting with the cat-like Nayar, the silicon-based Korriban, and most shockingly, a group of Vraxians, the very species that had attacked the human colony of New Eden. Murmurs swept through the chamber. Surely this is just a desperate attempt to show independence, said one representative. They will return once they realize how isolated they truly are. Chancellor Keslak did not look convinced. Let us hope you are right. Frank Winters pulled his coat tighter as he stepped off the small diplomatic shuttle. The air on the Nayar homeworld was thinner than Earth's and much colder. Around him, the landscape was a mix of tall purple forests and rocky plains. The sky above was a deep indigo, with 3 small moons visible even in daylight. 2 Nayar representatives waited for him. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but their bodies were covered in short fur that ranged from golden to dark brown. Their faces resembled Earth cats, with pointed ears and whiskers, but their eyes showed a clear intelligence. Welcome, human Frank, said the taller Nayar, using a translation device hanging from a chain around her neck. I am Sunwhisker, chief speaker for the Nayar Council of Elders. Frank bowed his head slightly, as his briefing had instructed. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I bring greetings from President Gray and the people of Earth. The second Nayar, with darker fur streaked with gray, spoke next. I am Night Hunter, head of security. We are curious why humans seek us now, after the Galactic Council declared our technology too primitive for membership 300 years ago. Frank smiled. That's exactly why I'm here. Earth believes the Council was wrong about many things, including the Nayar. As they walked toward a city built into the side of a mountain, Frank explained Earth's new position. The Nayar listened carefully, their ear movements showing interest. The Council limited your growth because they feared your unique biotechnology, Frank said. Earth doesn't fear it. We want to learn from it and share our own advances with you. Sunwhisker stopped walking. And what does Earth want in return? Alliance, Frank replied simply. Earth is building a coalition of species who believe in mutual advancement rather than the Council's controlled hierarchy. We call it the Stellar Accord. Night Hunter's eyes narrowed. The Council will not like this. Frank looked up at the indigo sky. No, they won't. That's partly the point. Back on Earth, President Allison Gray stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Representatives from all Earth nations filled the historic chamber in New York City. For 20 years, the president said, humanity tried to be a good member of the Galactic Council. We followed their rules, we respected their traditions, and in return they treated us as children. Denied protection, denied technology, denied true partnership. She pressed a button, and the large screen behind her displayed a map of the galaxy with Earth marked in the Orion arm. Today, I am announcing Project Independence. Earth will no longer seek the Council's approval. Instead, we are creating our own network of alliances with species who, like us, have been overlooked or undervalued by the Council. The screen changed to show images of various alien species. Already, diplomatic teams have made contact with 15 non-Council species. 7 have expressed interest in joining what we call the Stellar Accord, a new type of interstellar cooperation based on mutual benefit rather than age or power. In her office at Intelligence Headquarters, Director Susan Fleming watched the President's speech on a monitor. Around her, a team tracked diplomatic missions across the galaxy. A young analyst approached her desk. Director, we've just received word from the Korriban mission. They're in. Fleming nodded. That makes 8 species now. How did the Council respond to our meeting with the Nayar? They called an emergency session, the analyst replied. Our sources say they're confused more than worried. Fleming allowed herself a small smile. They still don't understand what we're doing. Good. Vexna, the auxiliary representative, who also served as the Council's intelligence chief, presented his findings to Chancellor Kizilak in a private chamber. The humans have contacted at least 15 species in the past 3 months, Vexna said, his forearms managing multiple data screens at once. All are either species rejected for Council membership or those given limited status. The Chancellor paced slowly, his gray skin looking paler than usual. What are they offering these species? Technology sharing, defense agreements, most importantly, respect. Vexna paused. They're treating these lesser species as equals. A foolish approach, the Chancellor scoffed. These species were limited for good reasons. Some lack the maturity for advanced technology. Others have cultural practices incompatible with galactic civilization. Perhaps, Vexna said carefully, but the humans don't seem to agree with our assessment. The Chancellor waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. This is merely a tantrum. Humans are young and emotional. They will return to the diplomatic table once they realize how isolated they truly are without Council protection. Vexna wasn't so sure, but he knew better than to contradict the Chancellor. Admiral Grace Martinez stood on the bridge of the Earthship Defender, watching as 20 new vessels took formation around her. They were the first ships built with technology traded from Earth's new allies, faster, stronger, and more advanced than anything humans had previously created. Her communications officer turned from his station. Admiral, all ships report ready for the demonstration jump. Martinez nodded. Begin countdown. Make sure all Allied observers have clear transmission. Across the formation, representatives from 7 alien species watched from their own ships. This would be the first public demonstration of the Stellar Accord's combined technological capabilities. The Council thinks we've gone silent, Martinez told her crew. They don't realize we've just started speaking a language they understand. On the main screen, the countdown reached 0. In perfect synchronization, 21 ships activated their new jump drives, technology the Council had refused to share with Earth for 20 years, but that the Zendi had gladly traded for human medical advances. The ships vanished in flashes of blue light, leaving empty space where Earth's first independent fleet had been. The message to the Galactic Council was clear: the rules had changed. 1 year had passed since Earth withdrew from the Galactic Council. What began as a bold move by a frustrated species had grown into something no one expected. The human-led coalition, now officially called the Stellar Accord, included 17 non-council species. Dr. Eric Powell floated in zero gravity, watching as Korriban engineers attached mining equipment to an asteroid. The rocky space body was part of a mineral-rich belt in a system that the Council had declared off-limits decades ago. The Council claimed the area needed environmental protection, but Earth's intelligence had discovered the real reason. The asteroids contained large deposits of rare elements used in advanced propulsion systems. Eric's spacesuit was bulky, but he had grown used to it during the 3 months he'd been working on this project. Through his helmet, he could see the Korriban workers moving with surprising grace. They looked like walking crystals, their silicon-based bodies reflecting the distant sun's light in rainbow patterns. "Primary anchor point secured, Doctor," said Kaz Tor, the lead Korriban engineer. His voice came through the radio with a slight, metallic quality. "Your design is working well." Eric smiled. "Thanks to your team's mining expertise. On Earth, we've barely scratched the surface of asteroid mining." A warning light flashed on Eric's suit display. A moment later, the project's security officer spoke over the common channel. "Attention all workers. We have detected an approaching vessel. Council registry, likely a patrol ship. All personnel return to your ships immediately." Eric and the Korriban team quickly pushed back toward their vessel, using small thrusters on their suits. As they reached the airlock, Eric could see the Council ship approaching. It was sleek and silver, clearly a newer model with superior weapons. Once inside, Eric hurried to the bridge. Captain Lydia Patel, a former Earth military officer, stood calmly watching the main screen. "They're hailing us," she informed Eric. demanding we cease operations and leave the area immediately. Eric frowned. This is international space. The Council has no authority here. That's what I told them, Captain Patel said with a slight smile. They didn't like that answer. The Council ship moved closer, weapons ports visibly opening. They're preparing to fire warning shots, reported the sensor officer. Captain Patel remained calm. Tell our friends it's time. Suddenly, space around them seemed to warp. 7 ships appeared from jump points, 3 human vessels, 2 Nayar, bioships, 1 Zendi cruiser, and a massive Korriban mining carrier. All flew the blue and white flag of the Stellar Accord. The Council ship halted its approach. They're hailing again, said the communications officer. The main screen showed the face of an auxiliary commander, his forearms moving in agitation. This area is restricted by Council decree, the commander stated. All vessels must withdraw, immediately. Captain Patel straightened her uniform. This operation is authorized by the Stellar Accord, a sovereign alliance of 17 species. We recognize no Council authority in this region. The auxiliary commander blinked his 3 eyes, rapidly. The Council will not tolerate this violation. Look around you, Commander, Patel replied calmly. You're outnumbered and outgunned. The question is not what the Council will tolerate, but what the Accord will tolerate. This is your only warning, to leave peacefully. The screen went dark as the Council ship cut communication. A tense minute passed before the silver vessel turned and jumped away. Eric let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. That could have gone much worse. Captain Patel nodded. This is just the beginning. The Council is starting to realize. We're serious. The real test will come when they decide to send more than 1 ship. On Centralis, the Galactic Council chambers were in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, while Chancellor Kozilak repeatedly struck his silver rod against the speaking platform. Order! I will have order, the Chancellor demanded. Gradually, the noise subsided. The Chancellor's normally gray skin had taken on a purple tinge, a sign of extreme stress in the Thrad species. The reports from the Keldor belt are deeply troubling, he said. Not only did these Accord ships defy Council authority, but they displayed technology that should be impossible for them to possess. An image appeared in the center of the room showing the Stellar Accord fleet facing off against the Council patrol. Most concerning, the Chancellor continued, is the Zendi ship. The Zendi were denied advanced jump drive technology by Council. Decree just 30 years ago. Now they appear to have it. A Peloran representative stood. The aquatic species had blue-green skin and large, expressive eyes. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The Stellar Accord now includes 17 species, including some we've denied membership for centuries. They're sharing technology and resources freely, and breaking our most sacred rules in the process, countered the Juxti representative, a small but highly intelligent insectoid species. The technology restrictions exist for good reasons. Some of these species are not ready for such advances. The Peloran representative tilted her head. Yet they seem to be using these technologies responsibly. The humans have created a system of mutual advancement that challenges our basic assumptions. Chancellor Kozilak frowned deeply. Are you suggesting the Council system is flawed, Representative Molfen? I am suggesting, the Peloran said carefully, that when 17 species choose a different path, perhaps we should ask why. Defense. Secretary Henry Porter stood with Admiral Grace Martinez in the new Stellar Accord headquarters in Geneva. The facility was still under construction, but the Central Command Center was fully operational. On the main display, a map showed the current location of all Accord ships and installations. The Keldor Belt operation was a success, Martinez reported. The Council patrol withdrew without conflict, and mining operations have already yielded significant quantities of curium and ytterbium. Porter nodded, studying the display. And the new defense network? Online at 12 colony worlds, Martinez replied. Each system now has a mixed fleet of human, Nayar, and Zendi vessels. The Korriban have provided advanced sensor arrays that give us early warning of any approaching ships. Porter walked closer to the display. What about the Vraxians? Can we trust them? The Vraxian horde had attacked the human colony of New Eden just last year. Their inclusion in the Accord had been controversial, even among humans. Surprisingly, yes, Martinez said. They've contributed 3 battle cruisers to defend the Nayar homeworld, and their weapon technology is being integrated into our new ship designs. Intelligence Director Fleming believes their attack on New Eden was encouraged by certain council members to keep humans in line. Porter raised an eyebrow. The council would do that? They've been manipulating species against each other for thousands of years, Martinez said. It's how they maintain control. A young officer approached them. Secretary Porter, Admiral Martinez, we've just received word from our intelligence assets on Centralis. 5 junior council races have formally requested meetings with Accord representatives. Porter and Martinez exchanged glances. It's happening faster than we expected, Porter said quietly. Martinez nodded. The council's grip is beginning to slip. For thousands of years, they've controlled who gets what technology, who can settle which systems, who can mine which resources. Now there's an alternative. President Gray will want to know immediately, Porter said. This could be the tipping point. As they turned to leave, Porter looked back at the galactic display. Accord territory now spread across multiple sectors, growing daily. 1 year, he said, almost to himself. Just 1 year, and we've changed the face of galactic politics. Forever. That's what happens, Martinez replied, when you stop playing by someone else's rules. 2 years had passed since Earth's bold withdrawal from the Galactic Council. The Council faced a crisis unlike any in its 5,000-year history. 5 junior council races had formally requested to leave and join the Stellar Accord. Their Accord ambassadors cited rapid technological advancement, fair resource distribution, and mutual defense guarantees as reasons for their decision. The massive council chamber was in complete disorder. Ambassadors shouted over each other while Chancellor Kazalak repeatedly struck his silver rod against the platform, trying to restore order. Silence, the Chancellor finally roared, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. This behavior is beneath the dignity of this ancient institution. Gradually, the noise subsided, though tension remained thick in the air. The request by the Pelleran, Juxti, Mevari, Talson, and Ordon representatives to withdraw from the council will be formally reviewed, the Chancellor announced. Until then, all duties and privileges remain unchanged. The Thrad Elder, Zorvin, rose from his seat in the highest tier. As the representative of one of the founding species, his word carried enormous weight. These defections cannot be tolerated, the Elder stated flatly. I propose immediate sanctions against any species that abandons their sacred council obligations. Cut off from all council trade routes, technology, and protection. Murmurs of agreement came from the other elder races, particularly the Axelar collective. The Pelleran representative, Mal Fen, stood. Her blue-green skin glistened under the chamber lights. Threats will not change our decision. For centuries, we have watched the Council restrict growth and advancement based on arbitrary judgments of which species deserve knowledge. Those restrictions exist for good reasons, countered the Axelar representative. Some species cannot be trusted with certain technologies. Molfen's large eyes blinked slowly. Yet the Accord has shared these technologies freely for 2 years now, and we have seen no misuse. Instead, we've witnessed unprecedented cooperation and advancement. The chamber erupted into arguments once more. Chancellor Kazalak looked around, at the chaos, his normally confident expression replaced by worry. The council system that had maintained order for millennia was fracturing before his eyes. Lisa Chen walked slowly through the Earth Embassy gardens, guiding Ambassador Mol Fen of the Pelleran. The aquatic alien moved with graceful steps, admiring the variety of earth plants. A special misting system had been installed to keep her skin comfortably moist in Earth's dry air. Your botanical diversity is fascinating, Mol Fen said, reaching out to touch a rose petal with her webbed fingers. On the Pelleran homeworld, most plants live in the oceans. Lisa smiled. We're honored to be the first world you visit after your decision to join the Accord. They continued walking until they reached a small pond where water lilies floated on the surface. Mole Fen's eyes widened with delight. "These remind me of home," she said softly. "Ambassador," Lisa said, "many humans are curious. The Peleron have been council members for over 700 years. Why leave now?" Mole Fen was quiet for a moment, watching a dragonfly hover over the water. "For millennia, the council preserved a hierarchy," she finally explained. "They feared what would happen if younger races gained too much power too quickly. Senior members controlled which technologies were shared, which systems could be colonized, which resources could be harvested." She turned to face Lisa directly. "Your species showed us another way. Advancement through cooperation rather than control. In just 2 years, Accord members have made more technological progress than in the previous century under Council restrictions." Lisa nodded. "But the Council claims these restrictions prevent dangerous technologies from falling into the wrong hands." "A convenient excuse," Mole Fen replied. "The truth is simpler. Power. The elder races fear losing their dominant position." A gentle rain began to fall. Mole Fen tilted her face upward, clearly enjoying the sensation. "Do you know," the ambassador continued, "that the council denied the Peleran advanced medical technology that could have saved millions during the Great Plague 3 centuries ago? They claimed we weren't culturally prepared for such knowledge." Her voice carried no bitterness, only sadness. "Yet within months of joining the Accord, human scientists freely shared similar techniques with us." Lisa considered this. "The president will want to hear your perspective directly. Are you ready to meet her?" "Yes," Mole Fen said, looking at the Earth sky. "I believe we have made the right choice." Admiral Grace Martinez stood on the bridge of the flagship Defender, watching the view screen with intense focus. Her fleet had responded to a distress call from a Korriban mining colony under attack by pirates. What they found was deeply troubling. "Confirm that scan," she ordered her weapons officer. "Confirmed, Admiral," the young officer replied. "The pirate vessels are using council-manufactured weapons systems. The energy signature is unmistakable." Martinez frowned. "Those are military-grade weapons, not something pirates should have access to." The fleet engaged the pirate ships, quickly overwhelming them. Most fled, but the Defender managed to disable one vessel. Marines boarded and captured the crew. In her ready room, Martinez examined the evidence collected from the pirate ship. The weapons were indeed Council military technology, and the ship's logs showed recent contact with Council space. She opened a secure channel to Earth. Intelligence Director Susan Fleming appeared on the screen. "Admiral, your report is most concerning," Fleming said after hearing Martinez's findings. "This isn't the first incident suggesting Council involvement in attacks on Accord installations. Not pirates at all," Martinez concluded. "Deniable assets." Fleming nodded. "I'm preparing a complete briefing for President Gray. If certain Council elements are attempting to destabilize the Accord through proxy attacks, we need to respond carefully, but firmly. My recommendation is to increase our patrols and implement the new defense grid immediately," Martinez said. "Agreed," Fleming replied. "And Admiral, this information needs to be shared with our Accord partners. They should know what we're facing." As the communication ended, Martinez looked at the star chart on her wall. The Stellar Accord now controlled nearly a quarter of the known galaxy, territory that had once been under Council influence or deemed restricted for various reasons. The conflict was moving from diplomatic to military. The Council, it seemed, would not accept their diminishing power without a fight. On Earth's lunar colony, preparations were underway for a historic event. The first galactic summit not controlled by the Council in over 5,000 years was about to begin. Representatives from 32 species would attend, including the 5 former Council races. President Allison Gray stood by the window of her office, looking at Earth hanging in the black sky. In 2 years, her world had gone from frustrated council member to leader of a powerful new galactic alliance. Her aide, Daniel West, entered with a data pad. "Final security protocols are in place, Madam President," All delegations have arrived. Safely. Gray nodded. And the Council's response to our invitation? They've declined, officially. But we've received word that several Council races are sending unofficial observers. They're curious, Gray said. They want to see what we're building. West studied his leader's face. Are you nervous, ma'am? President Gray turned from the window. This isn't about humans anymore, Daniel. It's about building something better than what came before. A galaxy where advancement isn't controlled by a select few, where species help each other grow rather than compete for favor. She straightened her jacket. Let's make history. 5 years had passed since Earth withdrew from the Galactic Council. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Stellar Accord now included 47 species, among them 12 former council members. The balance of power had shifted completely. On Centralis, the once mighty council chambers felt empty. Where representatives of over 200 species once gathered, now barely 90 remained. Chancellor Kezilak had been replaced by Sorval of the Axelor, one of the founding races of the council. Sorval stood before the diminished assembly, his forearms held in a formal position. We must acknowledge reality, he said, his voice echoing in the too large space. The council system, as it has existed for 5,000 years, is no longer viable. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some representatives nodded in agreement while others looked shocked. I propose a fundamental reform, Sorval continued. We must adopt certain principles from the Accord if we hope to survive as an institution. The era of technological restriction must end. The policy of hierarchical membership must be abandoned. You suggest we imitate the humans? Asked a Thrad elder, clearly offended. I suggest we learn from them, Sorval replied calmly. In 5 years, they've built an alliance that now controls more territory, resources, and technological innovation than the Council. Many of our strongest members have defected. These are facts we cannot ignore. The elder sat back, unable to argue with the truth. The Council was diminishing while the Accord grew stronger each day. I have initiated contact with High Commissioner Morrison of the Accord, Sorval announced. I believe the time has come for formal negotiations between our organizations. The chamber was silent. 5 years ago, such a suggestion would have been unthinkable. Now it seemed the only path forward. Jack Morrison, once Earth's frustrated ambassador to the Council and now High Commissioner of the Stellar Accord, stood in a meeting room aboard the space station Unity. The massive station orbited a neutral star system on the border between Accord and Council space. Built through the combined efforts of 12 species, it represented everything the Accord stood for: cooperation, shared knowledge, and mutual advancement. Across the table sat 3 council representatives, including Sorval himself. It was the first formal meeting between the 2 galactic powers as equals. High Commissioner, Sorval began, we appreciate your willingness to meet. Jack nodded. The Accord believes in dialogue, Chancellor Sorval, even with those who once dismissed us. If the Axelor was offended by the comment, he didn't show it. Times change, as do perspectives. The Council recognizes that our traditional methods have become outdated. An interesting choice of words, Jack said. For decades, we were told these methods were necessary for galactic stability. Perhaps they were once, Sorval admitted. But your Accord has demonstrated another way is possible. For the next several hours, they discussed potential cooperation between the 2 organizations. Jack noted how different this meeting was from his experiences in the Council chambers. There, humans had been supplicants asking for consideration. Here, the Council representatives came seeking terms. As the meeting concluded, Jack escorted the Council delegation to their ship. Walking beside him was Ambassador Kelnar of the Zendi, one of the first species to join the Accord. They fear us now, Kelnar observed quietly. Not just humans, but all Accord species. Jack shook his head. Fear isn't what we want. Respect is enough. Dr. Eric Powell stood in the crowded observation deck of the research station, Horizon. Scientists from 26 species had gathered to witness the test of a revolutionary propulsion system, one that promised to reduce travel time between galaxies by 70%. The final calculations are complete, announced Dr. Shira, a NAR scientist whose specialized biology allowed her to process mathematical problems faster than any computer. The test vehicle is ready. On the large view screen, a small unmanned ship floated against the backdrop of stars. It contained the prototype drive that Eric's multi-species team had spent 3 years developing. Initiating test sequence, Shira said. The gathered scientists held their breath. This technology combined Zendi spatial theory, Corriban crystal, engineering, human theoretical physics, and biological components grown by the NAR. No single species could have created it alone. The test vehicle's engines glowed blue, then purple, then a color Eric had no name for. Suddenly, the ship vanished. Tracking signal confirmed, Shira reported excitedly. The vessel has reached the target coordinates in the Andromeda Galaxy. The room erupted in cheers. Scientists embraced colleagues of totally different species, and biologies united by their achievement. Eric looked around at the celebration. 5 years ago, most of these species had never met. Some had been actively prevented from sharing knowledge by council restrictions. Now they had accomplished something that would change galactic exploration forever. And true to Accord principles, the technology would be shared among all member species. President Allison Gray, now serving her final term, walked through Washington, D.C. with her old friend and longtime advisor, Defense Secretary Henry Porter. The city had changed dramatically, as had every human settlement. Buildings now incorporated NAR bioarchitecture, which allowed structures to heal themselves and regulate temperature naturally. Above them, personal transport pods, based on Zendi anti-gravity technology, moved through designated air lanes. "Remember when we first decided to leave the council?" Gray asked. "How uncertain everything seemed." Porter nodded. "I was convinced we'd face attacks from all sides. Instead, we've changed the galaxy." They stopped at the New Accord Cultural Center, where humans and aliens mingled freely. Inside, art, music, and literature from dozens of species were displayed and performed. Children took classes on comparative xenobiology from actual alien teachers. "Medical advances alone have added 20 years to the human lifespan," Porter noted. "Pellerin techniques have cured diseases we thought would always be with us. And Earth technologies have helped other species just as much," Gray added. "Our agricultural methods saved the Talson from a food crisis last year." A small alien child, a Mavari, approached the president with wide eyes. Her parents watched nervously from a few steps away. "Are you really the human who started everything?" the child asked in perfect English. Gray smiled and knelt down. "I just made a decision. Everyone in the Accord built this together." On the space station Unity, final preparations were underway for formal reconciliation talks between the Accord and the Reformed Council. After 5 years of competition, both organizations had recognized that cooperation would benefit the entire galaxy. Jack Morrison, still serving as High Commissioner, greeted the arriving council delegation alongside representatives from dozens of Accord species. What had begun as a human protest had evolved into a truly interspecies government. Sophia Rogers, a young aide recently assigned to the commissioner's office, watched the proceedings with fascination. "They didn't understand us, did they?" she asked quietly. "When we stopped talking and started acting." Jack looked at the assembled group. Former enemies, now allies, the once mighty council now seeking partnership. "Humans spent too long trying to join a conversation that no one wanted us in," he replied. "Sometimes you have to start your own." The delegation moved toward the conference room. A Vraxian representative, once Earth's enemy, held the door, open for the council members. "Welcome," the Vraxian said. "The humans taught us something important. True diplomacy isn't about talking, it's about building." As they entered the chamber together, Jack reflected on the journey that had brought them all here. 5 years ago, frustrated and angry, Earth had shocked the galaxy by ending all diplomacy with the Council. That decision, born of necessity, had led to something no one expected, a new kind of interstellar community based on equality, shared knowledge, and mutual growth. Sometimes, Jack thought, the best way forward isn't to keep asking for a seat at someone else's table. Sometimes you need to build your own.